Morning, ladies. Thank you for agreeing to join us today. This is a webinar that we've been really looking forward to doing. I think it's really important for the clients that OSA Recruitment work with. So I think as a starting point, we've chosen to partnership with the British Association of CV Writers. And thank you, Laura and Charlotte, for joining us today. Do you want to start by just making an introduction into the association and telling us a little bit more about your members?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for inviting us along anyway. And I'll probably refer to it because the British Association of CV Writers is a bit of a mouthful. So we tend to call it BACVW, and that's still a bit of a mouthful. But so Charlotte and I both CV writers, and a lot of us work sort of self-employed by ourselves. So the British Association of CV Writers was set up in 2021 sort of as a community for CV writers, so we could share ideas, best practice, but also to give job seekers a bit of faith in the CV writing industry, because it's not a regulated industry. Anyone can set up as a CV writer. So our members have to take quite a rigorous test and say they'll agree and abide by a code of ethics and do some CPD, continuing professional development, as well. So it's just to give job seekers a bit of sort of comfort, knowing that if they use a member of our association, then they're going to get a good CV writer who has good ethics, good values. And just to note, sorry, Charlotte and I are both on the board. So yeah, we've been there right from the beginning. And we've both been writing CVs. Well, I've been for 12 years. Charlotte's a lot longer, I think.
I'm much older. Much longer.
Thank you for that, Laura. I think that leads us into one of the sort of first points that I think we wanted to discuss, which was how CV writers differ. You can Google CV writing and get a huge array of offers, from those that promise to turn it around within 60 minutes, those that give you prices, and there's a range of costs that are involved with these things. So from your perspective, how do CV writers differ?
CV writers differ enormously, and the industry itself, I think, is broken into two halves in a way. So you've got CV writing sort of businesses, if you like, which are well known and they're very well publicized online, for example, and they, you would pay them a fee, and then they have a team of writers, a very large team of writers, sometimes internationally, that then would prepare your CV for you. So they're the ones that are very good at getting, the top Google rankings. If you're out there looking for a CV writer, it's very likely you'll end up and be directed to one of those organizations, and their marketing is great, that kind of thing. And they're very good at reeling you in with things like free CV reviews, for example. So it's very easy for a person out there to think, oh, they sound amazing. Look at that, I'll go with them. And often the pricing for them isn't too bad. It's typically affordable, but I think it's typically, most of the money that you would pay would go to the company and not perhaps a CV writer, and that's something for people who are purchasing a CV to be aware of. Whereas, and the other half of the industry, or people like Laura and myself, are members of the British Association of CV Writers, who are independent and they're self-employed CV writers. And the service that is offered by them and us is very different. It's because you're dealing with one individual who's a professional CV writer rather than a larger organisation as such. And that's one of the reasons that Laura particularly wanted to set up the association, was to build that community of independent CV writers. So in a way, we're like a big company, but we're we're all independent, and all the money that, you know, as a consumer, you know, you're paying a person who is working from home, typically is supporting their family, you know, and all the money that you're paying is going directly to them. So prices vary enormously if someone's looking for a CV writer, but I would say it falls into two categories. And within the self-employment, within our members, for example, there's a huge scope and range of different areas of expertise, subject matter experts within there. People typically come into CV writing having had a career doing something else. You know, not many of our members are, let's say, 20 at the start of their career. In fact, I don't think we've got any like that. You know, they're typically very experienced people and experts within a particular field who have gone into CV writing for the right reason, and it's normally because they're good writers and they want to make a difference, and they've seen how people are struggling putting their own CVs together. So that's what I would say is some of the difference, and Laura might have more to say on that.
Yeah, I guess the only other thing I'd say is that there are also some independent self-employed CV writers out there who probably don't provide a good level of service, and that's why it's really important, whether you use one of our members or not as a CV writer, to have some sort of email exchange, or preferably a phone conversation, just to get a feel for that person, and to check that their values align and you're going to get on with them, because you're working with them on, you know, confidential information, and you want to be able to have a good relationship with them so they can get all the best out of you, you know, draw out your achievements, all the really important information. So whoever you use, it's really good to just have, you know, that initial chat with them.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think one of the reasons this whole sort of topic of conversation came about is that we specialise currently in the health and social care fields, and the CVs that we see typically are well below where the standard, where they need to be. And we feel sometimes quite sad that the individual that we talk to has so much more about them than what their CV demonstrates. And I don't know whether it's typical to this sector or other sectors as well, where people sometimes, certainly the people that we interact with, are just really not very good at selling themselves. They don't necessarily have a huge amount of confidence. They tend to do elements of the job as an expectation that that's what the job is, and they don't really go out there and shout about it. And we really encourage people to have their CVs done, because I think it's so much more, and certainly the service that you offer is so much more than CV writing. I think it's a confidence boost. I think it's holistic support. We often engage with people who are looking to move roles, and normally something's happened. Normally there is an experience that perhaps has impacted them. Perhaps they've been made redundant. Perhaps something's happened within the field that they've been working and they want to move into a different one. There is normally a reason behind people's motivation to move jobs, as in addition to the ones that are career progressing. So I think that the benefits of using a CV writer are so much more than just the CV writing. Are you able to give us any examples or experiences that you've had to sort of demonstrate how it's so much more than just CV writing?
Yeah, and I think, just going back, just firstly, it's just not your sector. Definitely not. It's like sector wide. You know, it's virtually everybody just doesn't. I think people just, so many CVs I see, and probably you, Charlotte, are just responsibility based. It's like responsible for, did this. So even the words aren't, they're very passive. They're not sort of positive action verbs. And just speaking to someone else. Often I speak to people and they just say, well, I say, what have you achieved? And they just say, well, I just go in and I just do my job. And then it's only when you start talking to them and say, well, tell me what you do. And then also tell me about that. And they go, oh, so I did actually run this project and this led to this. And then you start asking questions. So it's a conversation and you just find out so much more information. that is just invaluable. And you just see the sort of light bulb go on in people's heads. It's like, oh, I have done that. I have achieved a lot. And I say, yes, and you need to put that on your CV.
Yeah.
And making sure that it's written in a way where it's not coming, people are very worried that it's going to come across as showy-offy or arrogant, and there's just a way to write it so it's not like that. And that's where we come in and we can really coach people how to do that. And in terms of example, I don't know if you've got any specific examples, Charlotte, but I mean, there are so many people where the whole it's the confidence, and it's people having that imposter syndrome, don't think they can do the job that they're applying to or the type of role they want to. And it's just speaking to someone to give them that confidence and self-belief that they can. I'll try and think of some specific examples. I don't know if you've got any.
You talking has given me a chance to think of some examples. Thank you. So maybe you come up. I think there is so many examples. I think every person we work for, like you said, Louise, comes to us because there's a need, and typically they've tried often to do their own CV and it's not been successful. So by the time they come to us for help, not only have they already written their existing CV from a point of low confidence already because they've been made redundant, they've lost the job, whatever, something's happened in their life, their confidence has been further crushed because they've not then got any interviews. So by the time they come to us, they're often in a bit of a state, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you know, so many of my emails start with, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, nobody wants me out there, can you help? And it's just, so to be able to turn that around is incredible, and that's what makes it so rewarding for us as CV writers, because we do turn it around. In terms of examples, all my customers are, well, most of them are typically career change, and a lot of them have been in the welfare to work sector with huge gaps in employment and really, really difficult life situations. So there's literally thousands of examples, really. But some of the more recent ones, so I work a lot with people in the public sector, emergency services, and many of them come to me with complex PTSD. They've been signed off for illness, and they've just been through so much trauma in their work. So the thought of writing a CV for them is not only difficult anyway, because they've been institutionalized in a job for 25 years and they can't see how they're going to transfer their skills into something outside of policing. And on top of that, they've been traumatized and they've got all these issues. And that is something that all CV writers, we have, this is what customers come to us in this state quite often. They really do need desperate help. So one lady I work with, for example, it's about 18 months ago, it's February last year. So she came to me, she was really struggling in the Metropolitan Police. She was working as a digital intelligence officer in the Met, and she just hit rock bottom. She had 2 kids to support at home, not earning enough money. She just couldn't see a way out. And I think in her words, she said it felt to her like she's in an abusive relationship. She needed help, basically. So me and her had spent a lot of time together online. You know, we had video meetings, and it turns out, you know, through that meeting, I found out that her main passion in life was football. So I was like, well, you know, have you considered working in that sector? And she was like, you know, she wants to be a footballer when she was younger. Anyway, so that kind of sparked off a whole other career path. So I said, look, there's a job came up at Southampton Football Club, basically. So I said, look, let's go for it. And it was in a safeguarding role. She didn't have specific safeguarding experience. However, she had some. So I did a CV for her. But I also noticed in talking with her, I noticed that she had other skills that she didn't know she had, which I reflected back at her. And one of those was project management. So in her CV, I put project management as one of the skills, and I gave examples of that. And in the interview, she got through to Southampton FC, but there's hundreds that applied to it. So that in itself was an achievement. She got through to the interview, and during the interview, they said actually another role had come up as community project lead, which they hadn't advertised yet. But because she'd put project management in a CV, they wanted to offer her that. So anyway, that's the job that she took. So for the last 18 months, she's been community project lead for Southampton FC. She's completely transformed everything. She's absolutely on a roll. And then a couple of weeks ago, she messaged me, because she's kept in touch, and she messaged me again and said, oh my goodness, she said, she's been headhunted for an AI project lead role with the government, which is twice as much money, in a completely different, but using, again, her project management skills that she didn't even know she had in the first place. So she's going to take that. And she said, I'm completely out of my depth. I've no idea what I'm doing, but I'm so excited. And I was just thought, I've got loads of examples like that of people ending up in careers that they never thought, that they didn't even know existed, or they never thought they were capable of doing. And as CV writers, we get that enormous privilege and opportunity to work with these people, pull out all the things that they're good at, they're proud of, the ways that they've made a difference. And everyone has achieved something. Everyone has. But they just don't see it as an achievement typically, and reflecting that back at them. And I think people believe it more when someone else tells them that it's an achievement. So us pulling it out, writing about it in black and white, and then they read it and go, oh, actually I have done that.
Yeah.
And then they get excited about using the CV. Yeah.
I think people are quite humble as well, aren't they, when they're talking about themselves? It's easier for people to sort of like recognize those things in other people more than it is about yourself. You always sort of like downplay your skills or what you do every day. It's just something that rolls and that you're so used to doing, you're almost on autopilot with it. So it's hard to see what that is, and even articulating that on a CV is hard again if you're not used to doing it.
Yeah, it's that external perspective is invaluable. I think you can spend hours sitting at your desk trying to write your CV, think of things, speak to even friends and family, but it's people who don't know you, have never met you, and just have that complete external perspective. And like Charlotte said, can then see different skills. And also by her speaking with you, Charlotte, when she got to interview, because she'd already talked through those things with you, she wasn't there at interview racking her brain thinking of answers to questions and examples, because you'd already had that conversation with her, which why I think that one-to-one consultation is just invaluable for so many reasons.
Yeah. You've raised a really interesting point there, Charlotte, about headhunting and about the CVs presenting opportunities in fields and sectors or roles that you just never even knew existed. As a recruiter, we often headhunt, we often go out there and source candidates for roles if we're not getting the applications in that we're looking for. And to do that, we use technology. We use X-ray searches, we use LinkedIn, we use different software solutions, and it picks up on those keywords. So if we were looking for someone that needed project management skills and we'd put project manager into that X-ray search, that's what we're then getting results back for. So having that LinkedIn profile and CV that captures all of those keywords and your skills will bring the headhunters to you. And that's, I think, another really important aspect of making sure that you present yourselves really well.
Yeah, and I think that on CV and LinkedIn is so important. And people can do that by looking through job ads that are online, a similar role that they're doing or want to do, and then collating all those skills and then making sure they have those on their CV and LinkedIn profile. So they will be picked up on searches like that.
Yeah, fantastic. I think talking about technology sort of leads us now into the buzzwords that everyone's talking about, I guess, in terms of artificial intelligence, AI. We hear a lot about AI now being used, that it's replacing human involvement, and I'm guessing, like with everything, there's good and bad points. So can you talk to us about AI in CV writing, the good and the bad?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that, Laura, if that's
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but personally, I love AI. I think it's exciting. I think it's definitely part of our future, and it's going to impact and revolutionize how we live. It already is, and it's amazing. I think as writers, it's I think there are some writers that need to be a bit concerned about AI in the industry, but in terms of CV writing, I think if anything, it's amplified that how we are different than AI. ChatGPT is an obvious one to choose, isn't it, at the moment? Is brilliant when it comes to research. It's an incredibly helpful tool. It can speed up. So if you're applying for a role whether it's in a business or a sector that you've not got much experience or knowledge of, it's brilliant to find out, what skill, tell me about this company, what skills are they looking for, that kind of thing. So I personally use AI as a research tool, a bit like I think of it like an extension of a personal assistant in a way. But sort of when I'm applying for jobs, I would encourage all job seekers to do it. Just use it, it's really, really helpful. However, when it comes to generating content, it can generate content. And what we're seeing as CV writers now is CVs coming to us that have been written by AI. And this is something that we never had even 5 months ago, didn't exist. And now I'm getting a lot. I don't know about you, Laura. And I can see straight away. And it's the wording, it's the phrasing, it's AI. The content at the moment is very good at generating a lot of content, which can be narrowed down, but it often says something, but not a lot. and sound ridiculous. So some words and phrases I've seen in AI and I've been quite shocked at particularly some of our police customers. They've sent me applications that they've forwarded to really senior roles, and they've used ChatGPT. They've written what they've done, they've put it into ChatGPT and said, can you make it better or whatever? And it's awful. So I have been quite shocked. They just use phrases that you would never say if you were communicating normally, if you were talking. So that's something for people to be aware of. But it will get better. AI gets better every single week. And AI companies are, they're buying up even better, smaller organizations all the time. So it will get better. But I think it's just to be aware of the things like the nuances and personality. If you want your CV to sound different, if you want it to sound unique and completely personal to you, at the moment that can't happen with AI, because it doesn't know what questions to ask you. So our skill, if you like, as a CV writer is taking a person unique as you are and asking you the right questions and reading your body language and knowing if you're having a bad day or when you're talking, what makes you look upset, what makes you look happy, what's bringing you joy, and spotting those things in conversation and diving into those in a bit more detail, which an AI can never do that. So I think it's brilliant. I love it. I'm really excited about AI, and especially, day-to-day support kind of stuff. And as a job seeker, I would say use it, but just please don't use it to write the content of your CV or your cover letter, because it will definitely sound like everyone else's. And employers are really savvy now. It'll go straight in the bin. They can spot an AI-generated content really, really easily. So steer clear of it if you can for now. Okay.
Thanks, Charlotte. I think it's like all of these things, isn't it? It's here to stay. I don't think it's going to go away. It's just how we incorporate it into our daily lives and work lives and all of that. So that's really interesting insight. Thank you. I think one of the things that we wanted to sort of also just discuss is from our perspective as a recruiter, time is often quite limited in terms of looking at CVs. How do we decide who we're going to speak to? How do we decide who we're not going to speak to? And from company perspectives, we know that sifting through CVs is quite often done on an automated system. It's done using ATS systems, and there's technology that's deciding who and who not to speak to. What's your advice in terms of how to make those CVs stand out? How do you work with someone to make sure that they're noticed? What are the sort of main tips and areas do you look for?
So I think when you're writing your CV, you have to take ATS in mind, bear that in mind, but it's not the be all and end all. You've got to write that you're writing to a person, because someone is ultimately going to write your CV. And I think going back to Charlotte's thing and AI, it's all about personality and your uniqueness that comes across. So you don't want generic sentences in there. You just want to bring it alive with your personality, make sure you have the keywords in there, and then it's the achievements and making sure that those are really unique to you, but written quite succinctly, because like you said, time, no one wants to be reading through paragraphs and paragraphs explaining everything in depth. It's got to be quite succinct with like the result, what your impact was on the company and what you did to enable that result. And that's why things like bullet points are so good on a CV. But yeah, and it's having clear sections, really easy to read, lots of white space, not cramming. You know, if you've got a 5-page CV and you know you've got to get it to about 2 or 3, reducing it to font 8 with the widest margins possible, no one's going to read that at all. So it's making everything just very personal, clear and simple is my advice on that.
I think, is it worth mentioning about the formatting as well? Because I think if you Google, you know, a professional CV online, and a lot of our customers who come to us have already done this, and they go, oh, these amazing, beautifully presented CVs that look like brochures. And they do look amazing and incredible. They look like marketing material that we see. So sometimes there's an expectation of people that their CV has to look like that. But applicant tracking systems, they can't read the information. They can't extract the information from those documents. So it's one of the, if you really want, it's one of the fatal things you can do to your CV, basically, is to make it really formatted. And we had one of our members did a brilliant session the other day about ATS, and he'd done so much research. He's an expert in it. And he, you know, one of the biggest things he said was, your CV formatting has to be absolutely plain, simple, classic. It has to be able to be read from, you know, left to right. Is that right? Yeah, left to right. With no tables, no text boxes, no graphics, nothing like that, because then ATS will extract your information and put it into their format. And if you can't find it, so big chunks of stuff can just go missing. So if anyone's going to remember anything, I'd say just keep it really simple. I think is really important.
But I think because Canva, as example, is so easy accessible, and they do look beautiful. And if you type in CV template into Google, the most beautiful things come up. And then it's really hard to convince someone to say, it does look lovely, but unless you're in a creative industry, you're going to have to ditch it. And it's really hard to convince people to do that. But yeah, keeping it boring and simple to look at, but then making it engaging in terms of the content.
It means the words have to really work. You're not relying on it. Definitely words over format, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Thanks, ladies. It's really interesting that you say that, because we use an ATS system, and we notice that people, they do look beautiful, but they might have their qualifications in like a side part. The system will not pick up on any of that information. It will only take from the main, and it really does impact, because it means that somebody fantastic may slip through the net, and we're not even having those conversations. So thank you for that insight. Ladies, thank you so much for your time today. I think all of it's been really, really useful. We're really enjoying working with the association. I think we're an organisation that is very much about that personalised service. We automate the bare minimum that we do. Lisa and I love talking with candidates all day long, and we love the fact that that's the service that you offer as well. I think just as sort of a summary in terms of what we've all been discussing today, is I think that the benefits of using, and I put this, you know, highlight this word, a really good CV writer far outweigh the costs that are involved in doing that. Is there anything that either of you want to say, just as a summary and a sort of final parting comment?
I guess mine would be is to just do your research and check who you're going to work with, and make, you know, find someone who's within your budget, and then speak to those people to see who you think you'll work well with. Don't just go with everyone with the fancy marketing. Speak to people.
Yeah. And also, I think most customers that come to it, investing in yourself can be something that's hard for people to do, you know, but we might spend money, I don't know, let's say on our hair or getting a car service. And you go, hang on, but a CV could actually change your life. You could get a better job. You could earn lots of money. It could actually change your life so positively. So it's definitely worth investing in. And once you've got a really good one, it then becomes easy to then build on that in the future. You only need a good one once, and then you're talking of updates then. So it's worth investing in and getting it right, because it can make an enormous difference.
I think that's the perfect place to stop, Charlotte. I think that it's that investment in yourself, isn't it? I think that it's that. I mean, I spend a lot of money on my hair. I wouldn't consider spending that money on a CV up until this point, because it's where you place that importance. But I think that's the impact, isn't it? It can change your life. The example that you gave us with the lady who's now doubled her salary, that's a significant life change for that investment in yourself. So thank you so much, ladies. That's been really useful. Yeah, we've really enjoyed it. So thank you ever so much for your time.
Me too. Thank you so much for inviting us. Thank you.
Thanks very much.